executive, formerly from Pinterest, and is going to talk about growth hacking on the blockchain.
Something like that. So I will talk about token economy and how the token economy is is actually your growth engine. First, I'm Stephanie Tramichek. You can hear my accent. Sorry for that. I'm French, but I'm living here. I'm the founding partner of a marketing, PR, and development agency here in San Francisco. We are a boutique agency focusing on blockchain, and we help to define the project with token economy, with white paper, with go-to-market. We help to develop any blockchain project. We have 15 engineers in Ukraine, and we also help to launch a project or go-to-market project with marketing and PR, and especially thought leadership. So finish with my ads. So you've seen, how many of you were not at the hackathon yesterday? Okay, so if it's working, yeah. So for those who were not there, you don't know that. At the hackathon, there is a theme. The challenge of this year of this hackathon in San Francisco was about incentives, about building a business model that is driving competitive advantage. And I think I use that as an introduction of my talk because it is exactly what I'm talking about. How to drive business out of your token economy. And so this is the phrase if you want to read it. When I see the word business model, for me it makes me think about the token. Because in a blockchain, if you want to work on a token economy, you need to have a token, of course. I see stakeholders. When I see stakeholders, it makes me think about an ecosystem. I need to develop an ecosystem with my different stakeholders. And I see that we have to drive value back to the users. It means there is an economy. An economy means there is supply, there is demand, there is value creation, there is consumer and creators. So definitely, it's about the token economy that EOS wanted people to think about. And when we are in the blockchain industry, we read a lot of white papers. And for me, there are two types of white papers or two types of projects. There are people that have a business and happens to have a token. And there are people that do have a tokenized business. You want to be in the second one. You want to be a tokenized business. You don't want to just be a business that have a token. Because your token is your secret weapon to be successful. So what is a token economy? There is a lot of different definitions. People talk about token economics, token economy. For me, token economy is when you identify different stakeholders in your economy, main stakeholders, and your token is circulating between the stakeholders. And because of the circulation of the token between the stakeholders, there is supply and demand that is creating. There is value that is created for each stakeholders. And you use the drivers and the motivation of each stakeholders to bring back value to the token every time the token is passing by one of the stakeholders. So this is very close to what I call a growth engine. The growth engine is when you build incentives loops for each stakeholders. So you learn for each stakeholders, what are the drivers and the motivation for each of them. And you try to create incentive loop for each stakeholders. This is when you manage to have a sustainable token economy that could be bringing growth. But when I say that, I'm not completely right. This is working when you are in the gaming industry. So incentives loops are coming from the gaming industry. And I don't know if you play Fortnite. Everyone knows Fortnite, and I have been playing Fortnite. I can use that analogy. So Fortnite, you have a limited stock of guns and ammos. This limitation forces you to exchange and kill people, other players, to loot their guns. and have better guns to be able to perform to the end of the battle royale. And because of that, because they've been creating this small limit amount of guns, how do you call it? Your supply, your ammunitions, or you need to kill those people. And when you play, you want to have fun. You want to kind of kill people. I'm sorry to say that it's fun, but it is. If you compare to PUBG, I don't know if you know PUBG, but PUBG was the first battle royale. PUBG, you don't have the same incentives to kill other players. So what happens? You stay a lot of camping. And people say that a lot of the success of Fortnite, it's coming to the building, but also because you have more momentum, you have more activities that are happening in the game, which is not happening in PUBG. It's because Fortnite has these incentive loops created by just the limitation of your inventory. Inventory is a word that I was looking for, that force you to loot the other players' inventory. But in fact, in the startup world, and I'm coming from the startup world, I was GM in France for Pinterest before launching Propulsive and coming to the US. I've been also working at Etsy before, and every time I was the first international employee, and I started from scratch for those companies. So for me, growth and building a community is a second nature. I love to do that. And in the startup world, we call this growth changing, this token economy that we talk about in the blockchain industry. For me, I call it Flywheel. Maybe it's a new word for you, so it needs some explanation. So this is not what is a flywheel. We wish it exists, but not yet. A flywheel was coined, the term flywheel was coined in 2014, so it's not that old. With the first, you see this hand drawing about the flywheel of Uber. It's the first time that someone talked about how the network effect was used in such big ways. And so you see this, you can say that the flywheel is a way of building a network effect, but with that, the virality. When we talk about network effect, we think about virality. But Uber is not a viral app. Uber used the flywheel, that one, to grow faster. And the flywheel, at any point of the flywheel, so you see that you have different stakeholders. You have drivers and riders, that are the two main stakeholders. And the more you have rides that are available in a geographic density, the more the service agreement, I would say, or the riders will be happy with the service. So the more driver there will be, the more drives, the more money the drivers will make. So the more rides will come because it will bring the cost down of each ride, and it bring the demand up. What is interesting is for a flywheel, you can pour money at any point of a flywheel. You can work on any aspect of the flywheel. It will help the flywheel to fly. And that's why we call it a flywheel. Another example where I'm closer to, it's Pinterest flywheel. So Pinterest is, I mean, people say it's a social network. It's actually a tool to plan for creative activities. Maybe you've seen weddings happening organized through Pinterest. People plan and pin content on Pinterest of things that they want to do or things that they want to buy in the future. And so the flywheel of Pinterest is based on content. So every time users, pinners, were bringing content from the web on Pinterest, pinning the content, it generates more content on Pinterest. The engineers were using that content, that's millions of content, into creative boards, new boards that were not existing. Those boards that were created by the engineer, then after were made sure that Google will find them. And because of the SEO effect of these millions of content, because we are talking about millions of, I would say, 10,000s of programmatic engineer boards, collections, they are made available to Google users. people find them, and because they find them in their search with very, very, very long keywords, they will sign up to Pinterest to see more of the content. And this is how the content loop was creating a growth for Pinterest. And it has been documented. I can then use a link of documentation about how this flywheel works. But definitely, this is how growth is happening. So basically, with a flywheel, you identify what you want this user, your user, to do more. So it's about identifying the main stakeholders and choosing for them, for the most important ones, what is that you want them to do more. And so it's not just about the incentive loops for each stakeholders, but it's also identifying what are the key actions you want the user to take, and these key actions will generate growth. You need to have the two to build growth on your app. So definitely, using the token is, for me, a flywheel. The token is an opportunity to develop a growth engine on steroid. Because when we are in the startup world without the blockchain and the token, creating reward system and incentivization is a little more difficult. With the token, you have the possibility to create faster and more easily. It's native, I will say, to blockchain project. And so it's very important to take that opportunity because it's really unique, I think, in our history to have that as an opportunity to drive growth. And so if you really design your token economy in a sense where you have all those incentives loops for each stakeholders, and you also have like this identification of a flywheel, I mean, you will be millionaires. You will have a lot of users. In the blockchain world, I will say that the good example to look for is Steemit. Steem is really innovative into using a lot of the incentives loops, using different tokens. Their goal is to really build a community, a self-sustained community, where content contributors are rewarded for the content they are producing. But it's also not all the content, like the quality of the content is measured, and I would say the Steem dollars and the Steem power are used as a micropayment system. So you look at their white paper. It's very interesting to look at how to develop such incentive loops and flywheel. So really, like, follow what the hackathon said. Like, really try to develop incentive loops, a real token economy, and don't try to avoid that. It is embrace it because it's really a unique opportunity to really drive growth. And I will say that don't consider that your token should be just a carrot. It's not but because you give 10 tokens to someone that they will come and they will stay. Like, really think deeper into the motivation and the drivers of each stakeholders. Interview them, watch them, what they are doing on Instagram, on any social network. That's the best way of learning what they want to do and what's their motivation. Talk with them, and then after build your token economy. Thank you.